Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Mr. Williams, would you like to come forward?
I will this week before we go.
Thank you, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you. Gentlemen, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda tonight?
No, sir.
None.
Okay, and do I have a motion to approve the minutes for February 12th?
Motion to accept.
Second.
All right, we'll move right into our first item. In keeping with all the pleasant, warm weather that we've had recently, we have some gentlemen to talk about people jumping in the lake.
Thank you, Commissioners. We're here at the Alhambra, who sponsors the annual Hooley Plunge. And you're right, we do jump in the lake for a special cause, for Special Olympics and other mentally disabled programs throughout Allegany County. And we started this 8 years ago, where actually the Alhambra had it. And the thing was, we were going to Deep Creek Lake, and we found out that all that money was going straight back down the state. Well, Dr. McCow, who's on his way, he'll be here. What came with the idea to us, and as a member and everything, said, well, will we take it over? And we said, sure. But the neat thing about what we do here is everything we raise stays in Allegany County. So that's why we have it at Rocky Gap State Park. They've been a great contributor to the program, along with the Rocky Gap Casino and Resort. They've been truly good friends, and we have our Frigid Friday party this March 6th to start out with the Shanty Irish out there. So if you get a chance, want to hear good Irish music and have a good time, that kind of kicks off the day or the night before, and then that following day we have the plunge. It actually plunges into Lake Haybeav at 1 o'clock. And I did hear, Commissioner Valentine, you are going to be one of our plungers.
Yes, I think it's a great opportunity for my fellow commissioners to.
I did bring them an application.
To join me in the lake.
Yes, I did bring them an application. So
come along, gentlemen.
We would like to see them out there too. It's like when we do this, everybody has Dr. McCabe, myself, and my son Brad. Well, you're doing the things, and all the Alhambra members. Are you going in?
In fact, I think all 5 of us up here.
Oh, you think so?
I think he's speaking for himself, Jim, so I will gladly sponsor him, but.
Well, anyway, we appreciate what you all are doing for us here, and it kicks it off. We're waiting for the one in Garrett County to get over this Saturday, and then we'll really put the blitz on. But this kind of keynotes it right now that we're getting ready to do it. As you saw in the paper each day now, we're the countdown, just like before Christmas, we're the countdown to Hooley. So we appreciate you having us here today. And to give you an idea of what we've done in the audience and everything, over the 8 years, we've donated over $575,000 directly back to Allegany County programs, and we've spent approximately 19% that went to Allegany County businesses to put this event on. And this year, we're going to make a big donation at our Frigid party for $5,000. It's going to Rocky Gap State Park to put a complete sound system that will take in all the beaches and everything like that at Rocky Gap. So, we enjoy, the whole thing. It's a great day. Hopefully, Doobie, if you do want to come out, you can come out and be part of it. Maybe stick your toe in, and Jake, and cheer on Bill and everything. And we'll let him go in on the last wave with Sean and Brad and myself and the other Alhambra guys that go in. But please come out and at least see what's going on. And they tell me around state that this is the biggest program that Rocky Gap has up here. And it's great for Allegany County. Tourism does a good job for us. And on behalf of the Alhambra. And with me tonight while I'm going, I have Tom Farrell, who's the past Grand Commander. I got John Steiner, who is the Grand Commander, and Mike Rupenkamp, who's the Vice Grand Commander. And soon to come in here, you got Sean McKay, who's a member, and also Eric Bean has just come into our group too. He's part of our operation. So with that, anybody have anything to say? If not, we'll gladly accept the proclamation.
And I think it's interesting to note too, in conversations with Scott just 2 weeks ago, the ice on the lake was 13 inches in depth. I can just imagine what it is right now.
We will be out there with chainsaws probably at least March 6th and maybe before, and we might have to plow some snow. One year we plowed about 30 inches of snow. And my son was plowing away, and next thing he knew, he was clear out, halfway out on the lake with the bobcat. It was that thick. So, yeah, the Sheriff's Department, actually, the Alternative Sentencing Group also is a good crew that helps us out. And again, it's a community effort. And without the community, we couldn't do it. And that's what's a truly tribute to Allegany County and what our community does. So we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I think we ought to wait until Sean gets here.
Well, why don't we, if you don't mind, Jim, why don't we just wait a couple minutes? We have one more item on the agenda that we could step through for a couple minutes, and it'll buy us some time before we present that.
Okay, gentlemen, we'll move to item 2, which is Maryland Quality Initiative Award for the Potomac Hollow Bridge. Mr. Patterson?
Oh, Mr. Kale, pinch hitting.
No?
Oh, okay.
Introduce, how's that?
You guys are both going into Hooley too, aren't you?
I think I'm out of town that week. We have a bridge program in the county, which you're well aware of. That, we have, get my glass out here. We have 56 large bridges, and that's more than 20 feet. And we have to, by federal law, we have to inspect those every 2 years. And then we have another 82 bridges that are less than 20 feet, and we inspect those every 5 years. In each one of these bridges, the reports generated. Okay, so each bridge, one of those, there's a report with calculations, et cetera. We pay a consultant to do that, but Adam Patterson, who leads the charge on our bridge inspection program, and Dan DeWitt, they have to review each one of these and come up with a plan how we're going to attack each one. So they rate the bridges and say what repairs. So it's a tremendous amount of work, and that's just part of what they do. Years ago, there was a group called the Maryland Quality Initiative, and this group was started by the State Highway Administration, and it consists of transportation experts from the public side, the private side, consultants, State Highway Administration, and all the cities in Maryland. And what they do, they started that because they wanted to try to improve the transportation in Maryland, bridges, roads, et cetera. And it's a very big deal across the state. They have projects that each year people submit projects for awards. And this year, Allegany County submitted the Potomac Hollow Bridge. And we were one of 6 finalists this year. And Adam got to go to a conference and at a banquet. They presented that award, and I'm going to get to present it to him again, and he can give you some details about the project, the Potomac Hollow Bridge. So we'll congratulate him again, give him the award, so second time. Great.
This is the display board from the banquet. So thank you for just a couple minutes here this evening. I appreciate Paul and everything he does for the county, especially he supports me and the different things I get involved in. This project here started about 4 years ago. It does take some time. This is the first federal bridge project that I've taken from start to finish. And I thought I'd start off with a very difficult one by adding some extra layers of bureaucracy to it. So I went after some special bridge funds for this one. We used a special superstructure, and we used a special type of abutment system for this bridge. We qualified for $210,000 of extra federal highway grant money towards this. This is part of the accelerated bridge construction techniques really pushed right now by Federal Highway. It was really a team effort. We had Whitney, Bailey, Cox, and Magnini. They were design consultants on the project. Carl Belt was our low bidder, and they did an excellent job with the project. In the field, I mean, I take these projects ready to advertise, and then once we get into construction, I have a guy in the field, and he just did a fantastic job. Richard Beckwith, up there every day, making sure everything was built per the plan. The amount of paperwork, you wouldn't believe it. The paperwork, we're still actually, bridge was completed and opened in September, And as of today, I'm still trying to get final clearance on paperwork. So without Richard in the field, I really would have struggled with this job. So again, thanks, Paul. Thank you guys for the acknowledgement this evening.
We thank you for everything you do, Adam.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
And now, Dr. McCaw, if you'd come forward, please, and bring some of your friends with you.
Cold. Yeah, but just glad it's not today. Yeah.
Here's your application.
Yeah. Yeah, I get to play in the cold water now. Yeah.
Well, I think they'll be able to see
Here, we're gonna get this from.
Yeah.
I'll get here, and I'll get over here with my buddy.
Getting you in the picture.
Yeah, get them all away here.
Okay, this is an official Allegheny County proclamation for the Holy Plunge. Whereas Dr. Sean McCaw's idea to plunge into the frigid waters of Lake Habib to benefit the Special Olympics of Allegheny County and became a reality with the commitment and coordination of Wamba Caravan Number 89, Order of Alhambra. And whereas Allegheny County government wishes to recognize the 11th anniversary of the Holy Plunge, now a late winter tradition in Allegheny County. And whereas the Holy Plunge attracts hundreds of plungers and raises over $100,000 to help developmentally disabled individuals in our community. Now, therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim Saturday, March 7th, 2015 to be Holy Plunge Day in Allegheny County and encourage individuals, businesses, and organizations to support the 2015 Holy Plunge. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Allegheny County, Maryland to be affixed this 19th day of February in the year 2015. This is signed by all three county commissioners, Bill Valentine, Creed V. Brody Jr., and Commissioner Jacob Shea.
Thank you. Thank you very
For
much.
everything you do.
Thank you.
And you must be announcing, but my fellow commissioners have pledged to go in.
Support
with
you?
me.
Oh, both of you going in?
Yeah, they're both going to go in.
I never, you know, where's our county attorney at? I think he's,
I believe you've been in, correct?
I have been in, I have, yes.
It's not bad. It's good.
I hate to see Bill become a true politician tonight. It kind of breaks my heart to see him do that, but
Very proud of you. Very proud of you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate everything, guys.
thank you, gentlemen, for what you do.
Thank you.
That is great for the community.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
When you get a chance.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, it's good to see
Just if you get, you know, if you're, I'll get you an application here, so. I think I'll give one to Linda too, maybe Linda.
Yeah, yeah,
Go ahead and sign.
She's used to living there.
yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, now we'll move on to item number 3, which is a public hearing on Code Home Rule Bill 2-15, an act to amend the boundaries of Rawlings Fire Area. And County Attorney Rudd, it's all yours.
Oh, thank you. I have today Dave Dorsey, who's going to do a little visual aid to show where the boundaries are. Dave, you want to do that? Or one of you guys, anyway. We also have some members here from the Rawlings Fire Department to talk a little bit about this, just to give the background, which I'm sure they'll give as well. Back in 1991, there was a Rawlings Fire District set up to cover the area of Rawlings. There's a fire tax that's collected by the county, and of course what's happened, unfortunately since then, the area has been, the service area for Rawlings Fire Department has been expanded because of the termination of the McCool fire area. So that area was split between two departments. What you'll see on the right is the existing fire department area for Rawlings, and the lighter shade of green is the new area. And Dave, you want to tell us kind of a landmark where people kind of know where it goes to?
Well, the landmark's not there anymore. It's the former drive-in,
The High Rock.
the High Rock Drive-In. So Placid Lane would be a good.
Okay, so the balance of what would have been the old McCool district is not in this. In other words, the community of McCool, that area is not in here. This is basically
It's the Dawson
the
area.
eastern area, the Dawson area. Of course, geographically, it's probably close to the size of the original district, but as far as the number of inhabitants and property owners, it's substantially less. And once again, the people in the current Rawlings area to the right are paying a fire tax, have since 1991 to help support that fire department. And the theory is that you're bringing in new people, they should be paying their fair share to be part of that service area. I'll let the fire company, I know Chief Carr's here and some other people, they may want to speak to those issues. But what's being proposed, the only change, not changing the rate, not changing anything else, is simply expanding the geographic boundaries to pick up that area there in the light green with the line that goes from whatever the lane is up to, of course, the peak of Dan's Mountain. Right.
I could describe the boundaries
Yeah, go
if
ahead.
you'd like.
Sure.
For starters, the first line of this boundary, it's dated. It mentions Barton's Ball Field, which is no longer there. But because it's the same line that's in the southern boundary of Cresaptown, we had to keep that language there. It's basically the southern side of the American Woodmark. So it begins at the crest of Dan's Mountain, approximately 0.46 miles southwest of the Dan's Mountain Lookout Tower. Then it leaves the crest of Dan's Mountain and runs in the southeasterly direction with the limits of the Cresaptown Fire Service area past Barton's Ball Field and crossing US 220. And that's a total of 3.2 miles to the Maryland-West Virginia boundary on the south bank of the Potomac River. It then continues upstream on the Potomac River approximately 10.1 miles to a 0.1 miles south of the village of Dawson, where an unnamed road reaches the northern riverbank. You want to show that? We'll have a blow up, because this is where we had to get a little creative. There's really only one landmark in that area from the river, and it's a road that actually travels through the former High Rock property and comes to the north bank of the Potomac River. Okay, and let me see. That road it's unnamed. There's roughly parallel to and approximately 225 feet northeast of Pleasant View Lane. You can go back to the next one. Yeah. Then it continues across US 220 at Placid Lane and continues northwesterly approximately 2.7 miles to the crest of Dan's Mountain at a point approximately 1.1 miles southeast of the Fairview Knoll. From there, it runs with the crest of Dan's Mountain approximately 6.8 miles back to the place of beginning.
Okay, Greg, would you put up the previous slide for me real quick? Commissioners, if you will permit me, we have one individual who signed up here this evening, and I have a question for her, Lucille. I have down here Old Stable Road. I see Old Stable Road here, okay, which would be outside the proposed expansion area. Okay? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
All right. There are, as I say, there's a couple members of the fire department are here. Chief Carr is here. I know the treasurer's here, a couple other people. They may want to have something to say about this. Chief, do you want to come forward? Anything you want to add?
He pretty much summed everything up. The only thing that's on there that I see that we talked about, Pleasant View Lane itself, the back of that there is the Western Port area. Placid Lane is wrong.
Yeah.
Pleasant View Lane should not be.
It's not.
23,700. So 23,700 and Placid Lane, but Pleasant View Lane actually is in.
That's where the bingo place is down there?
Yes.
Okay, the bingo place.
Yeah, down there where the bingo place is. That is not the Rawlings area. That is actually covered by Potomac.
Okay.
So that should not be part of it.
It isn't.
Okay, okay. As
So
long
where
as
will the line be then?
23,700 McMullen Highway.
That would be north of the bingo?
North of the bingo and Pleasant Lane. Placid Lane. Placid. Pleasant View Lane is Chief Davis and Potomac. That's the only thing I see that's different on that slide, and I know we talked about that back and forth.
Right.
Let me go back to the other.
Okay. And the,
That doesn't need to be adjusted anyway.
Let me show,
That's not it.
we'll show you the close-up.
There's Pleasant View.
Yeah, Pleasant View Lane, so that line should be actually on the right side of Pleasant View Lane, as we're looking at it.
Is it included?
The building in the bottom right corner there is the gun club.
I want to sneak up here. I want to sneak up here. So this lane, this line here should actually be here. This should be Placid Lane.
Yeah,
And the line should run off Placid Lane this and out. This is actually not Rawlings Fire District.
Okay, let me explain. The boundary as described does come up this road here.
Okay.
your lines are
Okay.
off. Is that what you're
There's
saying?
a line, there's an old dirt road that runs down through here. That's the line. So all of this is not covered in
Yeah,
this.
the boundary
taxing district.
talks about that road, not.
Yes,
That
yes,
old dirt road was yesterday drive in.
yes,
Let him fix it.
yes.
Okay.
Other than that, I will field any questions, but I don't
Okay.
have anything to add.
And I think the other thing, Dick DeVore can correct me if I'm wrong, these boundaries essentially were set by the fire board, basically, or the,
That's the right.
Emergency.
Right there.
Yes,
There we go.
yes, there you go.
All right.
Our blow-up was.
Yeah, because it shows
wait a second. Dick, I'm sorry.
With the closure of the pool, the two fire departments were brought together. The Emergency Services Board facilitated the two departments in reaching a mutual agreement. Chief Dayton from Westernport is here as well. This is a mutually agreed upon boundary.
Okay. So our goal was to follow the boundary that they set. You've made the correction, so that's what this
It's
is.
shown correctly on this
Yeah.
map. Our blow-up was mistaken.
And the next chore, assuming that this is passed, that we'll actually have to go and, with the help of the tax office, and pick which properties are in, which properties are out. So if at assessment time, the right people get a tax bill and not the wrong people.
Does anyone have any questions for us, from the wrong question?
No? 'Cause I assumed everything was agreed on prior to this, I mean,
Chief Dayton
yeah.
and I and the Emergency Service Board agreed months ago on
Right.
when the boundaries and how everything's supposed to be
Great.
divided up.
Any other residents of the Rawlings Expanded District area that would like to speak?
Are you saying I can't talk?
You can. You can. I just wanted to see her, because, Lucille, would you like to come to the microphone?
I just have a few questions.
If you would come to the microphone, please.
That's just the general.
This is the general.
Okay.
I live on Old Stable Road, which is right past the line that you are talking about.
Okay.
I have just a lot of concerns with, let's just say if you approve this tonight, and here, and I'm talking if the Rawlings Fire Company falls apart in 2 or 3 months, will those people in that area, that tax be dropped from them? Because Westernport isn't charging that tax. They depend on, people volunteering and all the fundraisers they have. And in the whole thing of it, nothing's discussed about the people from the local area. So does this set the boundary, that's the other thing, is does this set the boundary firmly that we, in Old Stable Roads, is now considered for Westernport Potomac Fire Company? Is that, because that's not what's in this bill, it's just talking about Rawlings.
Well, okay, if I can clarify that, I think what the gentleman just said was the fire district was established by the fire board. This just simply says those people who are now going to be part of Rawlings are going to pay the same tax as everybody else in Rawlings. It's a fairness issue. What you're part of Westernport. Westernport doesn't have a tax,
That's what
so
I'm
that's
saying.
where you're going to be.
So, but, okay, at the same time, if something happens further down the road for the people that live in that other area, will that tax be dropped, or is that here to stay? I mean, I know that the membership in Rawlings is dropping, so I want to know for the future. I mean, look what we ended up with in McCool, and it's my concern.
Levied by the existence of the Rawlings Volunteer Fire Department. So if the Rawlings Volunteer Fire Department doesn't exist, that tax can no longer be levied.
That's what I want to make sure.
The first due area, so they would have to rearrange tax laws to give you another reason to tax, but it couldn't be a fire tax if there's no fire company there to provide coverage.
And for the record, that's the treasurer, and your name again is?
My name is Paul Gattoni, I'm sorry.
Thank you, all right.
Okay, so then what this is really establishing is that this is definitely the boundaries
For the,
Yeah.
for both of us. 'Cause
Yes,
even though
that's
it's-
correct. Well, but technically, just make it very clear, this is establishing the boundary for the special taxing area for the Rawlings Fire Company.
I understand.
It doesn't, I mean, theoretically, the Fire and Rescue Board could change the boundaries for where they respond whenever they want to change them. This is who gets taxed. It's coincidental because, once again, you can see the geographic area has been doubled, and you have people in Rawlings who've been paying a tax since 1991 to support the fire department. The deal from the fire company is, hey, we're bringing in these new people, shouldn't they pay the same tax as the people who live in Rawlings proper are getting the same service? That's what this is about. So it doesn't, it sets a tax area. Technically, that's what the commissioners would be doing.
So it's really not setting you're not putting in stone that we go to work we are part of
No.
Potomac, because you could change it at any time.
It,
Potomac Fire Company.
as it stands, and Chief Dayton or even Mr. DeWard can tell you this is already set. It's been set.
I understand you're telling me it's set,
Okay.
but they're saying it's not set in stone.
Well, the Emergency Services Board has direction over all fire departments. If there's a boundary dispute or anything, there's a whole other thing that goes into it.
Okay, so
that is.
that's my question. I was worried more of the taxes for everybody. Thanks.
Commissioners, we have also signed up to speak on Code Home Rule Bill 2-15, Robert Brode. If you would come on up. Again, we have Mr. Brode's signature to address the issue relative to the Rawlings fire tax area.
My name is Robert Brode, and I'm representing 205 people from McCoy. You say you say it's fair to put a fire tax on us. Let's talk about fairness. Was it fair for us to lose our fire station? Emergency Service and Mr. DeVore was sent a letter asking to remove this fire chief. We told him what was happening and what was going to happen. He did nothing. Now we have nothing. We feel he could have and should have done something. Our public officials knew what was happening also for years and did nothing to help us. Why now? Rawlings and Westernport only benefit from this tax. We are 75% seniors and most can't afford another tax. We are already giving more than we're getting. Was it fair for this fire chief to destroy one of the most solvent fire companies in Allegany County? Was it fair for this chief to move everything to another building and sell it? This fire station and equipment belong to our community. Was it fair when other companies bought our equipment? And where did this money go? This fire company did not belong to this fire chief. Was it fair when this matter went before the grand jury a year and a half ago? Nobody held accountable. 23 people were summoned, only 8 testified, and nothing's been done since. Our state's attorney says we need a forensic accountant, and he doesn't have the money to investigate it. Have we been treated fair? Our community deserves more than we're getting. Why can't you take the $30,000 you were giving this fire company and give it to our state's attorney to further his investigation? The county benefited from our loss, as these buildings and ground are back on the tax base, plus the $30,000 they were giving the fire company. This fire company should never had any debt at all. From 2000 to 2007, they made $2.2 million in bingo and county money. Yet in 2006, they took out a loan for $624,000, signed by this fire chief and his secretary. We have been portrayed as old people with a grudge. Believe me, we have a grudge. Nobody ever lost what we have. Someday some official will need our 511 votes. This all happened on Crooks Avenue.
Mr. Brode, can you give us your address again, please, for the record? If you could just speak it into the record for us, please.
2150 Burke Hill Road.
Burke Hill Road, and that's Rawlings, Maryland?
Right.
Okay.
It's McCool, but it's Rawlings.
Okay. Is your property located in the proposed Rawlings
I probably
tax
am
area?
not.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, with respect to the sign-in sheet for the Code Home Rule Bill 2-15, those are the only two individuals who have signed to speak relative to the expansion of the Rawlings tax area. Anybody else would like to speak relative to the Rawlings tax area expansion issue?
Your Honor, or yeah, Your Honor, well, Your Honor.
You call me Your Honor.
I can call you Your Honor, yeah. Commissioners, of course, today is a hearing. It's not to take action. You can take action one way or the other on this at the next, at a legislative day, whichever that should choose to be. One of the issues, though, to just point out, and I'm sure Mr. Bennett will agree, that if you are going to go forward to get this to be able to be on the tax rolls for July 1, we're getting close, because there's 45-day effective date from the date you pass it. Obviously, the legwork can be done in that interim, picking out which properties are in and out, but we are cutting it a little bit close. So it's for whatever. So the hope would be at the next legislative day that you're having a meeting, which is in March, would be the time to address this. So.
And I would ask it, if anybody else wants to make comment, please send us letters or emails and make your comments before the legislative date when we decide on this vote. Okay, the hearing, if nobody else wants to speak, this hearing's closed for this evening. We'll move to our action agenda. Item number 4, Code Home Rule Bill 1-15, off-street parking standards. Mr. Dorsey.
Well, at the last meeting, we discussed this issue where commercial developers are having trouble meeting our standards for parking spaces. In LaVale and county ordinances, the parking spaces have got to be no smaller than 20 by 10 feet. We come to learn that the industry standard is 9 by 18 feet parking stalls. We had a commercial developer come testify before the Planning and Zoning Commission. We had Mr. Barclay from Economic Development testify that the larger parking spaces are basically putting us at an economic disadvantage. And Angela Patterson, our land use and planning engineer, testified that actually the larger parking spaces conflict with the stormwater management regulations, which emphasize smaller areas being paved over. So Planning and Zoning Commission on December 10th voted to recommend to the Board of Commissioners to approve this item.
Today being a legislative date, Commissioners, you can take formal action.
Gentlemen, do you have any questions you want to ask Mr. Dorsey?
None. I believe we've done our due diligence on this, sir. I'm ready to put it to a vote.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we got smaller parking spaces in Allegany County, which only makes sense. The size of the cars have gotten much smaller.
Except for Creed. Just keep getting bigger.
Creed will still have his king-size parking space. Don't worry about it. Okay, item number 5, Resolution 15-4, Webster Store. Mr. Barclay.
Thank you, Commissioners. What we have before us here is Resolution 15-4, Webster Store. Basically what this is we're asking for the Commissioners to approve and sign this resolution. It's basically something that has been brought up as a condition of the conditional loan that is being issued to, so we're doing this on behalf of the company. The conditional loan is being issued by DBED that says that the county shall do a resolution that basically says we support the project and that we're in agreement with the MEDAF funding where the loan's coming from, and also that the county is going to participate at a 10% rate of that fund. So that's basically what the resolution outlines.
And the number of new jobs Webster bringing to the county?
150 jobs.
Very good. Gentlemen, do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 15-4?
Yeah, motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Item number 6, Tri-Towns Rescue Squad Advanced Life Support Provider Memorandum of Understanding. Mr. DeVore, the guy that's put me in a lake.
You
I will
volunteered.
remember this, you know
You did
that.
volunteer.
Yes,
Commissioners, what you have before you tonight is consideration to approve an amended memorandum of understanding with Tri-Towns Rescue Squad. With this agreement, what Tri-Towns has requested is an arrangement similar to what we've done with other squads, in that we will hire personnel to staff their stations, and Tri-Towns Rescue Squad will reimburse Allegany County for the cost of those employees. We already currently have a presence at Tri-Towns Rescue Squad with a daytime paramedic, and they're asking to expand with an additional 24 hours of coverage that they'll be providing directly out of their own treasury. So our request is, Commissioner, to approve this memorandum of understanding.
Any questions? Do I have a motion to accept the memorandum of understanding?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Dick. We will now have a special presentation by Greg Hildreth, our GIS coordinator.
Evening, Commissioners. I was approached, I guess, a little more than 2 weeks ago by economic development folks to take kind of a preliminary look at the new regulations that may be coming down for setbacks on wellheads for hydraulic fracturing of the Marcellus Shale. So I'm going to go over kind of my initial results from the analysis that I conducted for them. This is kind of a broad brush approach to the analysis. I don't want you to misconstrue what I'm showing here. This isn't like a sure thing, yes or no, for any given site that's depicted that way. This is just kind of like a preliminary run looking at broad data sets, kind of getting an idea of what we're going to look at if the regulations were passed as proposed. Okay, so I'll kind of step through one regulatory setback at a time, and then at the end I'll show a slide that shows all of the setbacks at one time. So these are being proposed in the Maryland Register, Volume 42, Issue 1. It's Comar 26.19.01, Section 18. Location restrictions and setbacks. So no permit for a well may be issued. Here's kind of the first geographic one, G1, on a land with a slope before grading of greater than 15%. So you can see all the red areas showing up here are before grading more than 15% slope. This is just looking at the western portion of the county. The outline shown was taken from a DNR study that showed this is the area where the Marcellus Shale is potentially viable. So we kind of limited the study area to just that area of the county. Next we have G2C. No permit shall be issued within the watershed of Savage River Reservoir, which just barely cuts off the northwestern corner of the county there. G3 may not be within 450 feet from the edge of an aquatic habitat. Basically what we're looking at here are stream channels of 10 feet or greater in width with a buffer applied. We're also looking at nationally registered wetland areas. This is a layer that could look very differently depending on the interpretation of the aquatic habitat. If we included every intermittent stream in the county, there'd be a lot more red on that map. But given the fact that, as you'll see, there's already so many areas removed from the other setbacks, we decided to kind of have a more limited approach to this data layer. G4, no permit shall be issued within 600 feet from a special conservation area. These would be specific properties with a conservation easement of some kind, or also environmentally sensitive areas, which they could have been identified as environmentally sensitive by any state agency, but the DNR has what they call a BioNet regulatory tier map, and it kind of codes areas based on what they perceive as the criticality of preserving endangered species, flora, fauna, and so you can see it's basically Dan's Ridge right there is what we're looking at, that long red line through the middle. And then in the north, I believe those two properties in the north are a result of mouth easements. G5, no permit shall be issued within 300 feet from a cultural or historical site, state or federal park, trail, wildlife management areas, wild and scenic rivers, and scenic byways. So this is kind of a hodgepodge of setbacks in this slide. I won't try to explain all of them to you. But the big one being Dan's Mountain Wildlife Management Area right through here. This is Dan's Mountain State Park. And then, of course, there's a lot of historical, registered historical sites between Mount Savage, Frostburg, and Georges Creek area. G9, no permit shall be issued within 1,000 feet from any occupied building, school, or church. So all these dots are just a 1,000-foot buffer around what we have as registered addresses at all variety of locations in the county. We included commercial buildings in this as well. This is any structure with an address would be showing up here. G10, no permit shall be issued within 1,000 feet from the boundary of a wellhead protection area. So these would be areas that are kind of in the catchment or mini watershed of a wellhead that supplies some kind of a public system, or it could be a private system, but it serves multiple residences. This was a shape that we actually got these delineations from the DNR. G11, no permit shall be issued within 2,000 feet from a private drinking water well. We don't actually have coordinates on these wells, but we basically made the assumption that any address point, any address structure that was not on existing public water had a well. And so this is just a 2,000-foot buffer on any address point that did not fall within an existing water system. So here's what it looks like when we put all those together. Obviously a lot of red there. So the totals here, the study area was about 87,000 acres, and the total constrained areas ended up being approximately 84,000 acres. And you can see at the bottom there it says, I don't know if you can read that about 3,122 acres are showing up white on the map, and that's 3.6% of the study area. Kind of a special note here on the side, which I know you can't read, so I'll read it to you, that several setback items in the regulation were not included, which would make this map even more red, if anything. 1,000 feet from known caves, 750 feet from the down dip side of a limestone outcrop. I just didn't have the data to get that stuff on the map in a timely fashion. 1,350 feet from an existing or abandoned oil or gas well, and then 1,000 feet from the boundary of the property on which the well is to be drilled, which that last one there would probably be fairly restrictive, given how constrained the locations already are. It's already, in addition to finding a property that might be in one of these white spots, you would also have to come 1,000 foot off of that property line in addition. So in comparison with a very similar DNR study, you can see their map looks very similar. They do show nearly triple the amount of developable space, but working on our best data, I think that they were probably not looking at the regulations in quite as much of a, it may be with less detail, or they maybe included less data layers, but according to our best data, it would be more restrictive than what they showed. So I'd be happy to take any questions on kind of the approach to the analysis, particularly just on the technical side of it. But anything on kind of the environmental or legal side, I would have to defer. It's kind of outside the scope of my involvement with the project.
Greg, do you know, Garrett County did something similar, and do they get a result that's close to ours?
Yeah, I think their total came in around 3% would be available for development potentially.
Mr. Wilmot?
Yes, I didn't hear anything about the springs in Alleghany County. There must be thousands of them. I can think of three in particular. On Murray Branch Road, there's a spring out there that pours out thousands of gallons a minute, and it's so pure that that's where they raise fingerlings, or up at the fish hatchery. And then there's another one out on Bottle Run. It comes out of the ground. It's so cold that you can't put your hand in it. And out on Bryce Hollow Road, there's another spring. It's been there since colonial days. People use that, live out there, use that as a source of water. Now, if you're going to drill in them areas, what's going to happen to these springs? And these springs are what creates all flow into the Potomac River. It creates our river. If you pollute the dam, then what? Water flows downhill to the ocean, and they're going to drink it.
Sure, I understand your concern. I don't know that springs were included in my analysis,
I
although
didn't see nothing in there.
Yeah,
I think they should include springs in there because these are the source of our water.
Sure, and springs are mentioned in the legislation under the aquatic habitat.
These springs come from deep down in. These are aquifers that flow underneath the ground from Canada to on down through the United States and feeds our aquifers. And these springs are really essential to our survival. People don't realize if you go out to Bottle Run, there's a beautiful little spring there. Don't put your hand in it because it's going to freeze.
That's right. Thank you.
And this analysis isn't showing where you definitively will or will not be able to develop a wellhead. It would really be on a case-by-case basis that those permits would be issued if the regulations were to pass, and springs are part of the consideration for that.
Well, plus, what the driller has to do, he has to provide a comprehensive well plan and showing the location of where each well would be drilled, and then there has to be a 2-year study done on all these different aspects where the water is, and also, I think if there's any springs in those areas, they would be picked up at that point.
But just illustration, right up in the Constitution Park, there's a spring that feeds the duck pond, and right behind my house, there's about 3 more little springs down in the hall.
The county's covered with springs, yes, we know that.
I think this fracturing is a bad thing.
Okay, well, thank you. Anyone else?
I have a question on, have there been studies done on how this will impact the aquifer, that we have in
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot done. That's kind of outside the scope of what I was asked to do with this analysis. But a lot of that information can be had from Maryland Department of Environment. Yeah,
Well,
I would direct you there.
We hear a lot of horror stories from other places where it's had fracking. And, this is what's on a lot of people's mind, if this would ever come into the area. It's getting back what he was saying, it can pollute the water. There's a lot of people in here that still rely on wells and stuff. And like he was saying, the idea of having an outcrop of limestone and stuff, well, the large majority of the stone under our county, not through here, is limestone.
Well, not in this area. That's the funny thing. This stops at the top of Dan's Mountain. I was going to sit here and be quiet, but I guess I won't be. Because I was actually the one that went up to a well site, and I went up with the people, and then I realized there was 73 people, and the only one that actually looked at this site that had any experience with drilling was actually me. And I thought, wow, and I'm not even a voting member of this entourage. This is in the Georges Creek Basin. There's nothing beyond Dan's Mountain, nothing. To get into the aquifer questions, anyone that's ever done any drilling in this area, in any area on the East Coast, there was no fresh water below 1,500 feet. The depth of the gas and oil in this county is probably around 6,500, 8,500 feet down. Now, the last existing oil well we had was in the Narrows at the turn of the century that was actually hand-drilled and produced oil. The Narrows is still there. This is a technology that was actually invented in the 40s. I actually went up and debated a professor at Frostburg State about this. The word fracking is a bad word anyhow. The only thing the water is actually used for is to carry the stuff down. Right now you can drill as deep as you want and you can blow the bejesus out of it. What everyone's trying to stop is doing horizontal drilling. When you horizontal drill something, stood right there as they did it, as they shot it, it's shot dry, it's sealed off, they do the next piece, shoot it. The water's used to carry the stuff in to keep the frack open. You do the same thing with a water well. So we're standing there looking at this stuff, and they're saying about all this nasty stuff, and I ate a handful of it because it's citric acid, the same thing that all water plants in the United States use to clean their filters with. There's so much untruth about everything. The state of Maryland has done its absolute best to put a moratorium on gas that's happening all around us. We're the only ones that would have the strictest regulations. You know, I asked a simple question. You can go 90 miles off to the continental United States and you can do whatever you want. What is the rest of the world doing for this? So they're actually doing nothing, except everyone is doing this.
You tell me that the fluid that they pump back in the ground, that you can drink it?
Yeah, when it's taken out, you can't leave the fluid in the ground. There's another gas. Fill a pipe up with water and see if gas will flow through it. Everything has got to be extracted that's put in, all but a small percentage. And I'll ask you a question that I asked the professor up there at night when he was asking me about water in the ground. I said, what's the average water loss on the East Coast of the amount of water that's put in the ground every day? He said, well, I have no idea. I said, well, what's the average water loss in Allegany County that's put in the ground every day between all the municipalities? He said, well, never thought of that. I said, it's roughly 1 million gallons a day. And then there was another professor standing there. I said, what's one of the most dangerous chemicals that man has ever invented? And he said, I know where you're going with this. I said, absolutely, it's chlorine, but you drink it every day in small doses. I said, so when you're talking about adding 0.2% of something per million gallon, everyone drinks a stronger dose of that in chlorine in their drinking water. At 5,000 feet, all the continents float on a seam of salt water. That's something that's just fact. There is no fresh water down at the depth this is. I mean, this is something that's been going on for a long time. It's just fear-mongering that just irks me to death. If people want to find out, please find out the truth. You know. Yeah, but again, like I say, when we was on the well site up there, I was up there with 70-some people. I was the only one that had ever even seen a drill rig, even knew anything about drilling. And when we was walking around supposed to ask questions, the only thing they was looking at was the fence post, the cows. They had a farmer come up, his property was on, they was trying to get the bad stuff out of him. He had no answers for them, so they shuffled away from him and went over to someone else and got in a little group and said, well, we don't want this in Western Maryland. I live smack in the dab in the middle of that red up there.
Well, in other words,
Yeah.
whatever they use for that, or anything they put in the ground that you can drink.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, pretty much. Can't.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing you have to look at, our neighbors across the river, ATK, they've got a process that, I sat on the governor's study commission on this, and they came and presented a video. They've got a dry fracking method to where there's absolutely no water needed. Eliminates all the truck traffic, eliminates storage of water, because to me, the water is a little bit of a problem. What comes out of the ground, the 75% they bring back, it has a lot of contaminants in it, has to be stored and then hauled away. That could be a problem. ATK's got a method. The only thing they need on site to do the fracking is a 3/4 ton pickup truck and a crane. They talk to the geologists, they get the hardness of the layer of shale that they want to crack, what distance they want to crack it. They actually send down a small canister with explosives in it, goes down on a tether, it's tracked by GPS. When it gets to the point where they want to frack, they push a button, bang, they pull everything up out and the gas follows it right up. There's nothing left in the ground with that method. So there's new technology.
I'll give you a reason for why I have concern with this. I was raised downstream from the mill in the early days, and I know what a dead river looks like. The Potomac River used to be dead. Now they champion that little section below the mill down to the sewage plant and say that's supposed to be the best part of the river. You know, they're regarding, all they do is take what they bring from the mill down, do about a 5 or 6 foot pipe, pump it into that sewage plant, and then dilute it down with the water that they bring in from the rest of the stuff and dump it back in the river anyway. But what we're saying here is this is why I have concerns. I've lived with polluted water, and we've seen wells and stuff that's happened because of this type of pollution. And it was always, you know, well, it's something that...
Well, I don't know if that would actually be a fair statement either, because we've never lived with this because we've never had nothing like this. I mean, New Page, UPRC is a multi-stage filtering system. Well, if we can't really talk about what was done in the 50s and 60s to what is being done today.
But still, the idea is this is what legislation is. They're supposed to make these studies. That's your job, to make the studies, and the people that he was referring to make these studies and assure us we're safe. But how many other chemicals and how many other things have we been assured this? You know, I mean, it just goes, we could go on and on and debate this thing. But I'm saying, we work on a thing here because as you look at something like this, I come from that. We have seen the effects that has had on certain people, and you all know the cancer rates of our area, very, very, very good.
That's not true.
Commissioner Brody, it's interesting to think about that. Had these regulations been around for coal mining, maybe in the late 19th century, what George's Creek would look like.
Yeah, well, what it would look like would be empty, and what there wouldn't be FSU up there. You know, so.
You know, it's just, everybody, you know, that's a reasonable thing to be concerned.
Absolutely.
You talk about you talk to professors and stuff. Well,
Yeah.
this is when he brought it up, this is where you ask
Yeah.
questions and to get an answer. So
Well,
don't
what
worry,
I
can
would-
tell somebody, I spoke to somebody, and we got an answer.
Well, what I would suggest you do too, go to the Maryland Department of Environment's website, and they've got the webpage there for the fracking studies and all, and they had a very comprehensive risk assessment done showing what risk or high risk, what's medium risk, what's very low risk. The only high risk that they found out of this was increased truck traffic, which could lead to increased automobile accidents. There was numerous medium level risk and a lot of lower level risk. It's like anything else. You leave here today, you're going to get in a car, and I guarantee you've got a greater chance of being in a car accident tonight than many, many other things, but it doesn't stop you from driving. And it's like anything else. You can pass any regulation you want, and there can still be something go wrong. Or you can leave no regulations and everything goes totally right. So, you know, this is something that the state have studied. I sat on that commission for over 3 years. They had all kinds of scientists there, doctors. There's concerns about health risk. There's a lot of concerns out there. This, I guarantee, if the governor said today that you could start issuing permits, it'd probably be numerous years before you ever saw somebody come in here and start to drill. Gas prices aren't good enough for it to happen now. They've already got thousands of wells drilled and capped, waiting to be used. So this isn't anything that's going to happen right away. And so what we have to do is just keep our eye on things as they're going along, see what technology's out there. We've got plenty of time to make a decision on this. Mr. Everly, do you have anything to offer?
Commissioners, have some correspondence for your review this evening. It's related to legislation in Annapolis. Two letters here. First one deals with Senate Bill 591, House Bill 484, which is the administration's transportation highway user revenues phased restoration legislation. And this letter is drafted to the Honorable Edward J. Casemeyer, Chair of the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee, and the Honorable Kumar Barve, who is the Chair of the House Environment and Transportation Committee. Dear Senator Casemeyer and Delegate Barve and committee members, the Allegany Commissioners strongly support the administration's effort in Senate Bill 591 and House Bill 484 to gradually restore highway user funds to local governments. Needless to say, the loss of highway user funds beginning in fiscal 2009 has had a dramatic effect on local government. Allegheny County highway user revenue has plummeted from $4.6 million in FY 2008 to $462,000 in FY 2015. With this legislation, the original intent of the Transportation Trust Fund would be reinstated. All local governments, counties, municipalities, and Baltimore City would benefit from the phased restoration of highway user revenue from 9.6% to 30% over the next 9 fiscal years. For the 23 counties, distribution of total highway user revenues will be increased from 1.5% to 15.4% during this period. Based on preliminary calculations, this legislation will incrementally restore funding to Allegheny County by FY 2024 to funding levels near what the county received in 2008. Allegheny County's Roads Division is responsible for maintaining approximately 550 miles of rural public right-of-way, and public transportation is extremely limited. Consequently, residents are dependent on private transportation for accessing employment and handling daily activities. Having a predictable and sustainable revenue source for our community is vitally important. Chairman Casemeyer and Barve and committee members, the County Commissioners implore you to support the proposed phased restoration of highway user revenues. Allegheny County citizens and businesses deserve well-maintained roads and bridges, and we seek the equitable distribution of revenue to properly maintain our public rights of way. Thank you for your consideration. Commissioners, the second letter is relative to Senate Bill 196 and House Bill 1089, the Economic Development, Rural Economic Development Program and One Maryland Tax Credit legislation proposed by Senator George Edwards. Again, this legislation is addressed to Edward J. Casemeyer, Senate Budget and Tax, and in this situation, the House Economic Matters Committee, the letter is being addressed to the Honorable Derek E. Davis, who is the chair. Dear Chairman and committee members, the Board of Commissioners of Allegheny County is pleased to submit this letter in support of Senate Bill 196 and House Bill 1089, Economic Development, Rural Economic Development Program, and the One Maryland Tax Credit. As proposed, it would be beneficial for Allegheny County to continue to participate in the One Maryland Tax Credit Program, while also having the benefits of this proposed new rural opportunity. With regard to amendments now being considered by the committees, we favor a threshold reduction of employees from 20 to 10, and we feel that the One Maryland wage standard, which has been incorporated into this legislation, be left at 150% of minimum wage. Chairman Casemeyer and Davis and members of the committee, by coupling the One Maryland Tax Credit Program with the new Rural Economic Development Program, Allegheny County would benefit by being able to capitalize on both programs to promote economic growth in our community that is still classified by the state as a distressed county. It is our sincere hope that this legislation passes favorably, and we thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration. Commissioners, while you're signing this second letter, I just wanted to report that I received a phone call late this afternoon from Adrienne Ottaviani with the Maryland Coal Association, and she asked that the county consider preparing a letter on behalf of, in opposition rather, of House Bill 723, which is currently assigned to House Ways and Means, and that hearing is next Wednesday at 1 o'clock, and it relates to, once again, the elimination of the coal tax credit. So with your permission, Commissioners, I will prepare a letter similar to what we've been doing for the past dozen or so years, and forwarding that on to
Please do.
the Senate and the House.
Is that it?
That's it.
Mr. Rudd.
I have nothing.
Creed, you sat here very silent all night.
Yeah.
You got anything you'd like to say?
Yeah. Mine's just a little public service reminder. Be careful when it's cold out there. Check on those who is not as fortunate. Be patient with everyone. Our roads department, everyone's roads department's done a very, very good job.
this year. Be very patient with your utility companies. I mean, leave your water run a little bit when it's going to be 25 below zero tonight with wind chills. Things are going to freeze. And also be very, keep an eye on things. You know, within the last 7 days, Dick, Tim, we've had a slew of fires throughout the county. This is a terrible, terrible time of the year. I wish everyone to be safe with electric heaters and things. I know everyone's trying their best to keep their houses warm, but we don't want them burnt down. Nothing likes to work this time of the year. Firemen don't like to be out. Plow drivers don't like to be out, and especially the utility men that's working on water lines don't like to be out. So everyone have a safe trip home tonight.
And make sure you get your pets inside too. And however you feel in frac, and Greg, thank you so much for doing that. And it really helps people to visualize what these regulations mean, and you know, put something on paper. Mr. Barclay, Websteron, it was, I know that wasn't an easy project. I had to work with DBED and lots of other agencies. I think some Appalachian Regional money trying to get stuff going out there too. So thank you for all of that. And the folks from McCool, you know, I wasn't in office when all of that happened, and so I'm coming into this, but I can guarantee you this, the folks up here are just as upset as you are. And it is a disgrace, but you know, we do not have the judicial power to make sure justice is served. It is a shame, and I feel bad for you, and I know Mr. DeVore, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but we've had to take measures due to that and due to other instances, and it is a shame because, you know, you go around the county to all these small communities, and the volunteer fire company is the center of the community, and when that's taken away, I definitely feel for you. Thank you.
On my part, I'd just sort of like to echo what Jake said. As commissioners have looked into this, we've got a representative here from State's Attorney's Office tonight. The State's Attorney's worked on this. Hopefully you can get some help from the Attorney General's office. What makes this whole thing difficult is all the volunteer fire companies are private LLCs. And so that keeps government from sticking their nose into their business too terribly much. And that's one of the things that's happened here. On the cold weather, one easy way to keep some of your water lines freezing, open up your cabinet doors under your kitchen sinks, bathroom sinks, let some heat get into those things. Believe me, it's good for my business, but it's business we don't really like at this time of year. I've been spending a lot of time down there in Annapolis. It is nice that we have a governor down there now that realizes Western Maryland does not stop at Frederick. He knows where Allegany County is. I think over the next 4 years, we're going to have a real good friend in Annapolis with Governor Hogan. There's a lot of legislative activity going on down there. Going to have to be a lot of trade-offs. And right now, that looks like that's something neither side wants to do, but the two sides have got to pull their horns in a little bit and decide that it's got to be good for the citizens of Maryland rather than good for the Republican Party or good for the Democratic Party. Everybody's got to work together. I appreciate everything our county staff does. We got people out on the roads when it's snowing and when it's icy. Our engineering department saves this county hundreds of thousands of dollars every year by doing engineering studies that other counties would have to pay for. Our GIS department's one of the best in the state. I put them against anybody. So I too would like to thank everybody. We now have some people signed up from the public to make statements. I don't know if you all still want to make statements. William Bardick, McCool Fire Department.
I'm going to read a letter that we have sent to the governor about the deal that happened with McCool. I believe you have the latest copy that was sent, and you've been to numerous meetings that we've had up there and pretty well know all the inside information and things that was on. We understand, you know, what's happened here, but we also think that you're giving, we have you're saying that you're closed corporations. That makes their records are not accessible. You turn around and you hand them public funds. Now, they have to account for the public funds, but they're still, you would think of them as a public entity because they serve the public, which we understand they're not. But we also have to remember in 2003 that the commissioners made a change in the paper gaming rules that would have lost them some of the favors that they would have insight into some of the gaming money that was created. I can read the rule to you, but I want to read the letter that we sent to the governor, and then we'll go on with this here. It starts out here as, I won't mess this computer up laying something on it, well.
No.
Mr. Barty can go ahead and close it.
Just close it.
Well, okay, then. I just didn't want us to do something that wasn't supposed to do, and then they couldn't fix it. I have that effect on electronics. Okay, it said, I took this letter around, and so has a lot of people here that we have in the audience that went around and gathered numerous signatures. We had 205 people in the town of McCool, which you know is a vast majority of the people that live in McCool. Most of the people that do live in McCool are elderly people on fixed incomes and stuff, and a lot of them were past members of this fire department. And one of the questions that they had asked is how something could happen like this and not be looked at by our, they look at you as the individuals in our county that looks after things, looks after their interest. We tried to explain to them about the deal of being a private country, or companies. These individuals people don't realize that, that the fire companies changed themselves into, went into a private organization. They look at it as a fire company as a volunteer organization that serves their neighborhood. And they have trouble understanding, the vast amounts of money that's created with the gaming and stuff, that, that it is not trackable. You gave up that option to track that stuff in 2003. So most of the, everything outside in these private companies, as they're listed here, is something that needs to be checked on. Now, grant you, there've only been a few companies in the area that created a situation. But it only takes one till you start to have to look and do something about it. Right now, you're looking and saying audits. An audit will do what good? It adds a column of figures up that you want to know how that column of figures will be, what it would say about them. The gaming and stuff, I don't know. I don't want to get into how far out that goes because I don't know all the legal things to say about how the gaming's tracked, and I don't want to make a statement about that.
Can I say something? I don't want to debate you. The paper gaming law was authorized by the state of Maryland. Mm-hmm. The legislature set those parameters, and one particular legislator did not want the fire companies regulated. Okay? The clubs and the private businesses are regulated. We know what they make. We know what they sell. If you're in the American Legion, we can tell you exactly what they sold. Fire companies, we do not sell. We do not control. That's what the legislative delegation at the time wanted, not these commissioners.
The commissioners wasn't the one that done this.
Well, it was passed by the state. That was authorizing legislation and said only people who had certain types of liquor license, not the fire company license, we could regulate. Everybody else is off limits.
Okay.
So it's not the
Allegheny
commissioner.
County is a code county.
But we have to follow, when it comes to gaming, it is under the criminal law. The state has to authorize gaming. There's a specific section of the state criminal law that authorizes Allegheny County to regulate and authorize paper gaming, and we have to follow that. We can't on our own make that up.
I can't find it for Allegheny County. I find it for all the rest of them, but not Allegheny County.
I'll be happy to show you where it is. I'm just telling you, it's in the criminal law.
I'll look this up. I haven't been able to find this. I have looked for that little thing to find that myself, and I have not been able to find that. So I will gladly. We'll take on that. Well,
and before you get started again, on this audit, this audit wasn't auditing books like you would think. This audit was looking at accounting procedures. And because of that, we found a lot of fire companies had absolutely terrible accounting procedures. Right? So that's what this audit was about, looking at the procedures and then making recommendations on how those procedures need to be changed, bring all the companies into line to hopefully follow the same procedures. But there again, because they are LLCs, private LLCs, we can suggest that this is what they do. We can require proper reporting on the money that goes from the county to the fire companies. But we cannot, we can't track and regulate a private company's finances.
Well, this is, go ahead.
Or now, I think that we could ask the delegation once again, now that it's changed over, that if you want to do paper gaming, it has to go through the county, and that's all entities, whether you're a fire company or the Eagles or whoever.
I understood the deal, but I've looked for that, what you just said, and I can't find it. I've read, that's one that's escaped me. I went back and researched the codes in 2003 when it was changed and they amended the paper gaming. But it didn't say anything about that it was outside of the county that was done. So I'll look at that a little further. Well, get back to the letter now, and then we'll go on with it. It says, Dear Governor Hogan, we said, we are asking for your assistance into a matter that has devastated our community. We lost our fire station, bingo hall, 9 acres of ground, and we're nearly $1 million in debt. It is our opinion this was caused by the mismanagement and theft. This previous administration really let our community down, and we are asking for your help. This matter has been brought to the attention of many county officials, including the Allegany County Sheriff, the Allegany County Commissioners, the Allegany County Administrator, and the Director of Allegany County Emergency Services. The state attorney told us a forensic auditor was needed to work through the many accounts involved, and that he had asked the Attorney General for assistance and was advised that they would not assist him and wished him good luck. So, I mean, this is, well, going back here, they kicked the football back out in the middle of the lot and it's still in the air. This is our opinion that this fire chief devised many fraudulent schemes. He leased his restaurant to the McCool Volunteer Fire Department for $3,800 to $4,600 a month. This lease burdened the McCool Fire Department with the restaurant's substantial debt. He was in charge of all gaming from '91 till they closed. He was the McCool Fire Department's first paid administrator, fire chief, trustee, key employee, and he was president and owner of the restaurant. He was paid $48,000 a year to run both. As president of his restaurant, he signed for a $374,400 loan to enhance the restaurant's facilities to benefit the McCool Fire and Rescue Department. We discovered that the McCool Fire and Rescue Department had purchased property adjoining his restaurant to use for fire training and to expand the parking lot for his restaurant, which he now owns. We found that the McCool Fire Department had 19 paid employees and had not been paying its employer tax. Another mystery is why a fire chief and his secretary signed for a $624,000 loan and not the McCool Fire Department's executive board. It says after the McCool Fire Department was foreclosed on, the fire chief sold items to numerous area fire departments. The Romney, West Virginia Fire Department paid for its items with 2 checks. One was made out to the McCool Fire Department. The other recipient's name field was left blank. He later learned that it had been written out to the McCool Fire Chief's mother. Now, this comes straight from out of the prosecuting attorney's office. That's what this is information that they garnered. I'm not making that as a statement that I found this information. This is information that we talked about when he was in the investigation part of it. Most of what I have right here now was garnered off of the state's website on the things that he had to file when all this information was going on. It's all public information, but not very many people know about it. It says the matter went before a grand jury in 2013. Said the financial and business records of McCool Fire Department or Hamburg Haven have never been subpoenaed. 23 people were subpoenaed and only 8 of these people testified. The grand jury did not hand down any bills. Why? This is still hanging out in the air too. It is the grand jury needed to hear more testimony. There were 15 people who were subpoenaed that did not testify. We are a small community, but we deserve more than we are getting. Someone should step up and do their job. When this man took over our fire department, everything was paid for. Our buildings, all equipment, and $120,000 in the bank. Now we have nothing. He was allowed to sell everything we had after the building and his lands were foreclosed on. This was not right. This man and his wife own numerous properties, have timeshares, have taken many exotic vacations. They have been to Aruba, the Bahamas, Mexico, the Cayman Islands, and have patronized many casinos. Where did the funds come from to support their lavish lifestyle? His bar and restaurant was being leased by the fire department. All profits were to be turned over to them. It is our opinion that our community's fire department's demise was caused by the mismanagement and financial obligations created when the fire chief leased his bar and restaurant to the fire department. When the fire department ceased operations, it had a federal tax lien of $324,773.93 and a state tax lien of $393,468.81 plus fees, and was burdened by over $1 million in debt. We asked for your assistance. These individuals responsible for this atrocity should be prosecuted. Please give this matter some serious thought and help us. This was once a very honorable fire company that was started in 1938. Thank you for your assistance. I'm signed by 205 citizens who lost the fire department and want some resolution. Most of the information was either given to us when we was speaking with Mr. Twigg, and we've had most of this stuff has come through from that and investigations that was done. We feel that we understand the plight here, that this is nobody can do anything because they're it's a company and it's a private individual. The records are private. But also what they look around here as is what has happened. This has been downstate. This has been everywhere. Everybody that we've talked to, every section of law, every part of law, everybody sitting here, we've talked through the bunch here. We've been through everybody and talked with them. And this is still an unresolved issue. This is something that could happen again. It happened once. It could very well happen again. This is what we looked at here, is it looked into the people that's controlling this fire department. We had father, son, stuff like this, and people that was keeping the records. It's supposed to be, most fire departments are very honorable. They're very, very, very meticulous with their records that they keep and don't want to, to have any propriety, anything to make anything where it looks wrong. They go out of their way to have that. But yet it did happen here, and it happened in a big way. And this is something that cannot be righted. I mean, this community, now we have a used car lot sitting up there. That's where our fire department has. We got a used car lot. People drive by this, and it hurts. It's something it's never going to be. It's never going to regain and go back to what it was. This fire company was started with one tanker. And the firemen that had owned this fire company or started this fire company, had built this thing with their own hands. A lot of these people built these buildings, and helping this go. But nothing can be done. These people have asked us, I told them, I said, I'll come down here and express the opinion and ask questions. But all these things that we've had, that we have not got an answer from anybody on what can be done. It's still out there in the open. It's just like we said, there this ball hangs out there in the open and nothing can be done about it. But yet something should be. We felt when it went before the grand jury, we're not asking to prosecute one fellow. It needs to be looked at as two companies. We had a company, the fire department, and we had a company that was a restaurant that entered into a business agreement. The fire company is the one that's bankrupt and went out. The other entity's still there. So, I mean, when you start adding up and just look at the way things happen here, I mean, that look by itself is a thing to look at, because when things like that happen, but the loans and stuff is just, and the amount of money that has went out of here, this is like Mr. Rhoda had said, that fire company had over $2 million plus what the state or the county had gave them over a 6 or 7 year period. And in 2006, they had to turn around and borrow $624,000.
Well, I understand your concern. I think the answer lay in the court.
Well, it's something that the people are looking at for use for answers. This is what this is what everybody has expressed to us. They think that, they look at the commissioners in Allegheny County and they ask, and we explain to them, you know, well, it's a closed company.
We're not judicial.
Right, well, we understand that, but everybody, nobody else can do anything either. You know, this is not a private individual thing.
We need to give the rest of the people time to...
Well, I will, I'm sorry, I get started on
No
this
problem.
and I am.
I understand.
Passionate about it. Well, thank you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Broad, you want to speak again?
No, I don't, I'm done.
Okay, Richard Biddle.
We had one question. Could we fund the Michael Twigg's office a little better next year? He asked for money last year and you all turned him down. Could we give him some more money so he can fight all the crime in the county? Because right now he's investigating the cheap crimes, shoplifting. He's not doing any of the expensive work.
We'll be working on our budget in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I know your budget's cut. And we have one more request. We could come up with 1/3 of that $45,000 if needed, if you'll commit to the other 2/3. Our citizens are willing to campaign for the $15,000 if you'll come up with the other 2/3. We just want to put that offer out there.
Thank you.
I mean, the citizens are really disappointed. They think $45,000 will settle this issue. We'd like to see that.
Well, it might come to another non-decision too. That's what you have to remember.
Yeah, we've been faced with that for the last 7 or 8 years with non-decisions. We're getting kind of used to it. Like Mr. Marsh says, we have tenacity. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for your time.
Lucille, you're good? Okay.
Okay. Remind you that our next public business meeting will be Thursday, March 5th at 5 p.m. here in room 100. And our budget schedule will be put in news releases. Thank you all for coming this evening. Stay warm. Keep the fires burning safely.
These two are all.
It goes. And later on, if they want it hooked up to that water line, make them pay. It's to their benefit. Same with sewer lines, you know. That's all I gotta say. I think people ain't got enough interest in that. You know, let them sit.
Okay, thank you. All right, our next public work session will be Thursday, February 12th at 3 o'clock in room 212. And our next public business meeting will be Thursday, February 12th at 5 p.m. here in room 100. With that, thank you all for coming.